I'm gonna close them for now. I don't like me looking at me.
I thought you
Okay.
liked them to yourself.
No.
With your fancy headset.
All right, welcome back to We Talk Tech, everybody. Today we've got an interesting episode. So far we've been talking about TIL, a lot of technology. Today we're going to transition a little bit to the prop program. I think it's the first time we've talked about the prop program. And we've got a special guest that you all know. He's been here before, and another special guest, a very special guest who is not new to us at TFL, but she's definitely new to the We Talk Tech program. So, Ian, who are our guests today?
Thanks, Wayne. Yeah, Krysten Polsky, thank you so much for being here today, and please tell us a bit about yourself.
All right, I'm one of the respiratory therapists with the prop team. Fairly new to the prop team overall. I've been about a year now. And previously I did work in community just in a different province doing a similar role managing home ventilation. So PROP is the Provincial Respiratory Outreach Program, and we are the suppliers for home ventilation equipment for the entire province of British Columbia. We offer mostly equipment, education, and support around how to use the equipment for folks who do qualify for our program and require some assistance at home.
So, Krysten, can you tell me a little bit about the equipment that Prop provides?
Absolutely. So we provide BiPAP units as well as different ventilators. In addition to that, nebulizers or compressors, as well as cough assist machines, and suction units are actually the other thing that we do provide. So that's what's in our equipment pool that we provide to people across the province.
And who's eligible for the program?
So there is different criteria on our website, but really, if people are curious as to whether or not they're eligible, the best thing to do would be to discuss that with their respirologist to get a referral in. But there's a lot of different, basically neuromuscular conditions, as well as different respiratory conditions that would qualify someone for our services. And essentially, it's folks who just need a little bit of assistance with their breathing, either 24 hours a day or just at night.
Nice. I think that's probably a lot of people in BC. But can you just tell us? I know Prop. We supply equipment. You guys do an amazing job of setting up and working with the doctors to get the equipment set up for our members. Um, but can you just tell us about some of the other support services that Prop supplies to not only members but their caregivers as well?
Absolutely. So Prop definitely supports a client-directed model, and what we mean by that is that all of our services, all of the things that we offer are directed by our clients. So what we do is we help teach their caregivers how to take care of their trach or ventilatory needs or any of their equipment so that those people can live independently in their home. So education is a huge component of what Prop provides because, of course, we want you to be successful and safe on your breathing equipment and your respiratory equipment in your home. The other thing we do is we do a lot of remote support. So Prop does have a 24-hour support line for those people who are on our program. You can call us any time of the day if you do have any questions or concerns with regards to your equipment. And additionally, we do home visits. We do those a little less frequently than we can offer remote support, but at least once a year we'll come out to your home, check your equipment, ensure that everything's working well for you and that you're happy and comfortable with your equipment.
Great. And recently, I hear, Taylor, you have become a member of the Prop program as well. So, I mean, we've seen your hair make amazing strides recently. So I think that's probably one of the byproducts of getting a better sleep. How did the whole process go? How did you get involved with the Prop program?
Well, I think it just started where I kind of offhandedly remarked that I haven't slept well in years, and I'm constantly tired. And one of our RTs, Miranda, said, "Oh, maybe you should try BiPAP." So I spoke to my respirologist, and she agreed that, yeah, it might be worth a try. And it was not an immediately effective treatment, which is normal, I believe, and it takes some time to get used to it. But I would say after about a month of getting used to the BiPAP and just kind of living with a mask on my face, which we'll be showing very shortly what some of those masks can look like. it makes a world of difference. Yeah, the hair game has stepped up a lot, mostly because I feel awake for the first time in a very long time.
As a ventilator user, somebody who's been using prep services for a number of years, yeah, I love all of the new and exciting technology that we use and that we're providing. So Taylor, tell me a little bit more about this new BiPAP. I know it has some pretty incredible settings.
We've certainly come a long way since the days of the iron lung and other archaic technologies like that. The new BiPAP that I'm using is quite cool, and one of the most interesting and I think technically advanced features is the ability for it to wirelessly transmit your data back to a central area where your respiratory therapist can view the settings, your respirologist can view the settings, and most interestingly, is if you set it up and you're interested, you can also view your setting or your sorry, I've been saying settings. I mean like the reports on how well you've slept that night and how well it's worked for you. So I'm going to share my what that interface looks like here, and here we go. So we can see here. Here's my report from last night. Apparently I slept for 11 hours. I don't want any judgment from anybody in the comments, all right? It was a long day yesterday. Basically, this gives your RT and your respirologist will get a more detailed breakdown, but for you who you just want to know how well it worked, it's got some really great features. So you can see how long you were using the mask, how well the seal held, which is a really important feature. If it's leaking too much, it's not going to be as effective. Then these events, perhaps Krysten, what do these events describe here? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, definitely. So it just kind of groups together any sort of things. So an apnea or a respiratory event. So what the machine will track is something called an apnea, and an apnea is just a period where your brain didn't take a breath for whatever reason. Sometimes it's a neurological thing. Sometimes it's an actual blockage in the throat, like an obstructive sleep apnea. So those are counted in the events per hour. And then the other thing that's counted is something called respiratory related arousal. So just where the machine thought you woke up a little bit, it wasn't really sure why, but it does know it was related to your breathing.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And then the last one here is, how many times you take your mask on and off at night. And this is something you can do a couple times without kind of affecting your, quality of the therapy. So say you need to get up and do something like use the washroom at night, you can absolutely take off your mask and re-put it on later. And then it gives you a little total score to see how it's going. So when I first started out with treatment, it was a very poor score. I wasn't sleeping well. It was, you're sleeping with something on your face. It's a new experience. So the score was quite poor, but now that I've really adapted to it and gotten used to it and accepted how beneficial it is, I consistently get these good scores. And the RT who I'm working with and my respirologist are also happy with the more complete breakdown of the stats and just reports. So it appears to be working quite well for me.
That's interesting. And Krysten, I just have a follow-up to that. Do you find that a lot of members look at their scores and look at how they're doing, or is that mostly the RTs and the respirologists that are looking at that information?
Yeah, so the version that Taylor showed you guys is a bit of a simplified version than what we see, but I would say when it comes to prop members that most of the time it's the RTs accessing it. However, I do highly recommend that people who have that air curve unit that Taylor does that has that capability definitely do it. There's a lot of research that really backs that the more engaged you are with your results, the better your outcomes are and the happier you are with therapy. So that's why that platform does exist. And it's, by the way, it's called myAir for those of you guys who are using one of the air curve ResMed devices.
And Taylor, for you, did you find that when you were getting those lower scores, was it hard to stay motivated to keep using it as much as you wanted to, or as much as they mentioned it would help you? Was it hard to keep going?
About 6 weeks in, I was pretty consistently using it, and then there was one night where I just couldn't get the mask to work, and I was frustrated and tired, so I didn't wear it. And then the next morning, I woke up and I felt awful. And then it really, that was the moment where it clicked in my mind that, yes, this is absolutely working. I feel much better. I've just got to deal with it and make it work. And now I do, and I can sleep with this mask on, and it doesn't bother me at all. And I've been on the BiPAP therapy for maybe 3 months now. So it does take time, but if your RT and your respirologist are saying that this is something you should seriously consider and really try to adapt to, I would absolutely listen to them and give it a fair shot.
Ian, I got a follow up for you too. As one of the peer leaders in technology for living, I'm presuming our members, if they are having trouble staying with it, can reach out to you and other peers like Taylor.
Absolutely. I think it's important for us peers to talk about it, to find out what works. I know that with a tray tube, there are certain positions and settings that I find are better at night that prevent leakage from around the tray site. So it's so important. And getting back to Taylor, I think you tried so many different types of masks. Can you talk about how that process is and what you finally settled upon?
So it was really just a matter of trying the masks for several nights and then conveying to the RT that I'm working with what did and did not work about the masks so that they could recommend something more appropriate. So the first one here is the one that I use most often, and we're going to see it here on the screen. Nobody laugh again, all right? You don't look attractive in these masks. You don't wear them for beauty. It's for health reasons, all right? All right. So this is the one I'm sticking with right now, and I'm not quite sure exactly what it's called, but the feature of it is perhaps you can see that there is a little kind of protuberance which kind of goes into the nostril, and I found that this was really helpful if you are the type of person to move in your sleep or roll from side to side, because it's more able to stay with your nose as you're moving. So you're not getting the leakages from the mask shifting because it's not really able to because it's kind of inside your nose. Krysten has told me that it's quite often people are quite concerned that these protuberances are going to expand your nostrils, and she has assured me that's not true. And I hope it's not true because I'm already approaching schnoz territory, and I can't afford to get much bigger in my nose, okay? So don't worry about that. But yeah, this is the one I use most nights. Alternatively, some nights when the previous mask is just not working for me, for whatever reason, I use this one, and I think this is just called a nasal pillow. Is that correct, Krysten?
Yeah, so the first one you had that goes into the nose, that one would be a nasal pillow. This guy is more of a nasal cradle, but they're really similar masks, as I'm sure you've
Yeah,
experienced.
they're very similar. It's just that this one doesn't have the protuberances. I'm going to continue using that word. I don't know what the technical term is, but so this one just kind of cradles. That's a very appropriate name. It just kind of hangs out under your nose. And this one is um, you feel it less. It's more of a gentle hugging of your nose. So if you're finding you're being quite irritated by the mask, this is less invasive. Not really invasive, but it's less and more comfortable and easy to forget about while you're sleeping. But it can shift if you are moving in your sleep. It can shift from side to side, which will cause leaking and kind of annoys me. But if you're not moving while you're sleeping, it should be fine. This is the one I started with, and it did not work because it's a full like face mask, and I was recommended to use this one because I know that for a fact that my mouth is open at night and it kind of drools. But I've been assured that's regular, so don't be embarrassed if you tell your RT that. But it didn't work for me because as a member of TIL, I've got voice assistants all over, and because it's covering your mouth, I could no longer use my voice assistants to turn on lights and do other things. So this one didn't work for me, but it's a personal choice. Maybe it will work for you. And the last one is very similar to the cradle, except instead of the hose coming out the front like a elephant's trunk, it is coming out the top. And maybe Krysten, you could tell us why somebody would opt for this one.
Yeah, definitely. So what you're noticing with this guy with the hose connected at the top is we've taken off the articulation on the face, meaning that people who want to sleep face down into their pillow are able to. So these guys have collateral flow through each side. So even if you slept on the side and blocked one, the other side would still deliver the air to you, and that you could just sleep on your face in whatever position is most comfortable and natural for you.
Yeah, so these are the 4 that I tried, and I did end up sticking with the first one here, which I use most nights. But it really is a personal choice, and just work with your RT and describe what you do and don't like about the masks that you're trying, and I'm sure you'll find one that works for you.
Krysten, is Taylor a particular member, or is this normal that we see members trying 3, 4, 5 different masks?
Definitely very normal to see people try a few different masks. Sometimes we do a really good job the first try and we get the right one, but it's a lot like a pair of shoes. Everyone has something that they prefer. So it's just a matter of sometimes trial and error until we get the right one. The only thing I ever recommend to folks is what studies have shown is you got to give a mask about 3 to 4 nights. Taylor, you might have experienced this too, to get a good feel for it. So if the first night it's not working out, kind of bear with it for a few more nights to get a good feel for it. If after that 3 to 4 nights you're really not comfortable with it, that's a sign that it's probably not the right mask for you.
Nice. And I know, Taylor, you mentioned it took about a month to kind of get used to it. And I presume that was trialing all the masks and probably changing settings and that sort of thing. So, Krysten, how long is that process, or what is that process? So somebody applies to the program. Typically, how long does it take for an RT to see them? And then kind of the stepping them through the different masks. Can you just kind of walk us through that process a little bit?
Absolutely. So once we receive your application and it's approved by our medical director, who is Dr. Jeremy Road, usually within 5 to 8 days, an RT will come out to your home to set up the equipment. We'll make contact with you fairly soon, make those arrangements. We always try to work with you in your schedule, what times work for you before we come out to make those appointments. When we arrive, we do an orientation on how to use the machine. The machines are fairly similar for everyone as far as that's concerned, so they're fairly easy to use. But when it does come to the mask, that's where I'll ask a couple key questions, usually with folks, to kind of determine what the best one is for them. And then I'll use that experience that I have, with the mask to kind of guide them towards what I think will be the best one. But ultimately, if after a couple nights it's not working for folks, of course, we will send them something different to try. But when we're in your home for your appointment, we bring a variety of masks with us so that we do have a large supply to be able to try to find the right one then and there. What I'll do is ask about, do you sleep with your mouth open or closed? What position, the level of motion that you have, whether or not you can breathe comfortably only through your nose and things like that. And that'll just help guide what masks I would recommend to someone at that point. So after, we fit the mask on you, we have you try therapy right there while we're in your home. That allows us to make any kind of fine adjustments. The machines actually have quite a few different comfort settings that we can adjust to personalize that breath and make it feel as natural as possible for you. So with your feedback and what you're feeling, we'll make adjustments until we can hopefully set you up for some success on that first night. And then, of course, we're always in communication with our members, so we'll follow up with you within usually the first few nights to see how it's going and keep troubleshooting with you until you're happy and comfortable on your therapy.
And as somebody who loves to travel, portability is very important to me. So how portable are these units?
So the BiPAP unit that Taylor's using is really quite portable. It comes in a bag that I would describe as no different than just a laptop bag or a briefcase. They are a free carry-on when you travel, so you do not have to check this bag. It does not count as your carry-on. It's a bonus bag. I always recommend just having a copy of your prescription, which you can always contact Prop to get a copy of that within your bag so that they know that this is medically necessary for you. Depending on the type of unit, some of our units do have battery backups, but some don't. So that is definitely something to factor in when you are traveling, if you're going to need to use it on a plane and things of that nature. But the nice thing is all the machines have built-in inverters into their power cords. So provided that you have the proper end to communicate with the wall in the country you're in, that your units will work wherever you are.
Krysten, thank you for joining us and letting us know about the program and the process and how things kind of work within the program. And Taylor, for sharing your experience. That was very helpful to our members. I know they're going to appreciate it. And people who aren't members who are interested. There's a lot of good information. So thank you both for joining us.
And as always, like, subscribe, and if you have any questions, please send us an email. See you next time.